Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. On Sunday, we observed World Suicide Prevention Day. This is a day in which we as a global community should reflect on the tragedy that is suicide. Each year, around 3,000 Australians choose to take their own lives. This equals around 8 Australians per day. These numbers are more than just statistics. They are a representation that we all need to do more. We are in particularly hard economic times in our country at the moment. As my friend the member for Lindsay pointed out during this debate, the release of the quarterly tracker by Suicide Prevention Australia highlighted that 56% of Australian families are reporting unprecedented levels of cost of living distress. Suicide prevention organisations have noted a 77% increase in demand for services over the past 12 months. For the vast majority of Australians, the prospect of taking our own lives is unthinkable. However, for far too many in our society, sadly, they believe that is their only option. We need to change that, and this day serves as a great reminder about the importance of reaching out, checking in, reducing stigma and encourage help-seeking. Unfortunately, this issue affects my electorate more than most. People in rural Australia are twice as likely to take their own lives, as are Indigenous Australians. Living and working in the bush can be the most rewarding experience and amazing lifestyle. However, it also has its challenges. Our farmers are amongst the most hard-working people in our country, yet there is no guarantee that their hard work will translate into profits. Being presented with several failing harvests can take people down a dark path. Likewise, working FIFO can provide a better salary, but the additional time away from the family can strain relationships and decrease mental well-being. I can testify that my office has been confronted with some very difficult and confronting situations involving suicide during my 10 years as the member for Durack. Given this history and context, I'm not surprised to read last month in the Geraldton Guardian that many of the nation's hotspots for youth suicide, according to a recent report by the Telethon Kids Institute, are sadly within my electorate. The Kimberley, Pilbara, Gascoyne and the Midwest all had areas listed as hotspots. Earlier this year, I spoke in the House about 2 new Headspace centres in my electorate that are aimed at tackling high rates of youth suicide. I want to take the chance to shout out to the wonderful staff in Headspace Karratha and the wonderful staff in Headspace Pilbara. Sorry, I should say Headland. Suicide is the leading cause of death for young Australians aged between 15 and 44. I'd like to acknowledge the work of all Headspace centres and others in assisting vulnerable gay, lesbian and trans people who, as a collective, have a suicide rate that is 10 times the national average. The Telethon report also highlighted a correlation between high suicide rates per 100,000 and lower mental health support services. The development of local services in the regions, such as Headspace centres, is one way that we can combat this reality. However, much more needs to be done. This finding further illustrates to me the benefit of restoring the 20 Medicare subsidised psychology sessions per year that were available under the Coalition Government's Better Access program. I'm proud that reintroducing this scheme and lifting the number of sessions back up from 20 to 30 was one of the first promises we committed to taking to the next election. While government, of course, plays its part, I agree with the theme of this year. This year's theme is that we all have a role to play in preventing suicide. All of us in our own communities, families, workplaces and social circles can have a positive impact by looking out for one another and starting important conversations, no matter how hard those conversations might be. Today I'm wearing a pin to mark Fly the Flag and to celebrate the work groups like MATES are doing to improve mental health and prevent suicide. Last week I met with MATES National CEO Chris Lockwood to discuss the role of their organisation in preventing suicide amongst the construction and the mining workforce. Suicide rates within the construction industry are above the national average. MATES is seeking to combat this through their role of raising awareness, building stronger and more resilient workers, connecting workers to best support services and partnering with researchers to inform industry around best mental health practice. Men account for 75% of suicides in Australia. A reason for this is largely due to the stigma that exists for blokes discussing just how they are feeling. As the construction industry is a male-dominated field, I'm pleased to hear that MATES is having a positive impact on blokes starting those important but difficult conversations. I also commend the work of Regional Men's Health Initiative, who also do a lot of work in this space in my electorate through their Talk to a Mate campaign. And I might say I've been to many agricultural and community shows over the past couple of months, and that Regional Men's Health Initiative is there every single time. I just want to give a shout out to them. They do amazing work. These are just some of the many groups across the country that are committed to suicide prevention. The impact organisations such as these have, many of them being faith-based, is immeasurable. I have no doubt their actions have saved many people from taking their own lives and from families experiencing unimaginable pain. Many of these organisations are charities who rely on funding from state and federal governments. I believe supporting grassroots movements such as these is a great use of public funds, and I acknowledge that committing to reaching zero suicides is the goal of everyone in this building, regardless of party stripes. So back to the message of we all have a role to play. All Australians can recognise that there are many vulnerable people out there who may, as we speak, be contemplating making that most tragic decision to take their own life. As a community and as a culture, we need to do more to make sure everybody feels welcome and supported enough to open up about how they are feeling before it is too late. We must take notice of the lessons learned on days like World Suicide Prevention Day, Raise the Flag Day and Are You OK Day, which we will observe tomorrow. It must be more than just marking the day and then moving on until it comes around the next year. All of us need to think about the necessary behaviours we should adopt all year round. As a community, we need to wrap our arms around each other and our most vulnerable. Whether it be starting a conversation or letting someone know they are loved and they're worthy, we can all try to make a difference. An important point to make today is that there are 10 million Australians who have been affected by suicide, and these are the parents, the siblings, the partners, the children, and a wider group of family and friends of someone who has taken their own life. Affected family members and friends go through a period of incredible grief. That in itself can last a lifetime. On top of this grief, many affected will possess feelings of guilt. They will wrestle with questions like, did I do enough? Or how did I not see this coming? To those Australians in particular, I would like to send a very clear message today. I understand your pain and want you to know that it's not your fault. I want to end my contribution today by highlighting another service out there for those in need of help. If you'd like to have a chat with someone about how you're feeling today or tomorrow or the next day, please take use of the Lifeline number, which is 131114. They are a 24-hour crisis support service who can assist anyone through their darkest of times. Please don't feel ashamed to ask for help, as you are not alone in how you feel. In fact, someone calls Lifeline every 30 seconds. Thank you to all the other previous speakers and those who are still to speak, and to all those across this great country who are working and volunteering for an even better Australia, an Australia without suicide. Thank you.
Thank you. The member for Hunter.